Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Clover School District Board of Trustees November meeting. I know it's weird for me to gavel in. That's usually the chair's job, but in November, we always have to elect new officers. So until that point in time, I will preside over the meeting, and we are going to begin the election of officers at this time. Each year, the Board of Trustees must elect the board officers, including a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. This year, the board has worked to develop a slate of officers, and tonight the members will vote on each one of these positions separately. We'll begin first with the chair. The chair of the board presides over the public board meetings and executive session, meets with the superintendent monthly to set the board agenda, acts as the official spokesperson or ancillary meeting representative when needed, and mediates conflicts that may arise with board members, signs the superintendent's travel, contract, and evaluation. The board has nominated Rob Wallace as the 25-26 chair. Do I have any other nominations from the board at this time? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Are there any abstentions? All right, hearing none, we have a board chair. The vice chair of the board operates in the chair's role for any of the aforementioned duties when the chair is unavailable. The vice chair is responsible for participating in the chairman training through the South Carolina School Boards Association so that he or she is ready to step in when needed. The board has nominated Jessica Cody as the 25-26 vice chair. Do I have any other nominations at this time? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we have a vice chair. The secretary of the board signs the documents on behalf of the board, edits public meeting board notes taken by the clerk, Ms. Spencer, fills in for the clerk in taking the meeting minutes if she is out, and sends thank you notes and other correspondence from the board. The board has nominated Kieron Meeks as the 25-26 secretary. Do we have any other nominations? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we have a secretary. There are 3 other volunteer positions that are needed each year, including the legislative liaison, the Clover Leaf representative, and the all-on-board representative. These positions do not require a board vote, and tonight the following individuals have agreed to serve in these volunteer roles. Our legislative liaisons are Tracy Stiff and Matt Burris. Our Cloverleaf representative is Mike Ballard, and our all-on-board representative is Ms. Kenda Cook. Let's please give all of these board members a round of applause. And now, Mr. Chair, I'll give you your gavel back.
Oh, thanks.
And
All right, welcome everyone. The Clover School Board Trustees welcome you to tonight's monthly business meeting. CSD Board meets formally twice a month, the second and fourth Monday, 1 work session, 1 board meeting. Business meeting format is as follows. The board will follow its approved agenda. During the public forum, attendees electing to speak will have 3 minutes. The board chair will address all speakers to provide the rules for the public forum. Following public forum, the meeting will continue with the remaining presentations on the agenda. Following each presentation, the board will have the opportunity to ask questions before moving to the next. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for the day. We thank you for the moment. We thank you for grace and favor. Thank you even for the challenges that we face every day. We ask that you continue watching over us, covering our students, staff, and community. We pray that you protect our country, state, and nation. In your name we ask these things. Amen.
Without objection, the board will approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Without objection, the board will approve the minutes from the last meeting. Hearing none, minutes are approved. Without objection, the board will approve staff personnel as presented in executive session. Hearing none, staff personnel is approved. Dr. Quinn, recognitions and appreciations.
Okay, happy November, everyone. It's nice to see people in the audience here. We also want to welcome those members who are joining us via our YouTube channel. We have very special individuals to recognize tonight, and we're going to jump right in first with Jessica Hernandez Sandoval, our Shrine Bowl trainer, if you'll come forward at this time. Jessica Hernandez Sandoval has been selected as the Athletic Training Student Aide for the Shrine Bowl of the Carolinas. This is a prestigious honor and is a testament of Jessica's commitment, dedication, and passion for healthcare. Jessica will spend a week in Spartanburg working alongside the medical staff, caring for the South Carolina team. We are very proud of you. Congratulations, Jessica. It's nice to see members of our training staff here to support her tonight. Thanks for being here. Next up, we have our Clover High School women's swim team. If you'll please come forward at this time. Congratulations to the Clover High School women's swim team for finishing second in the 5A Division I State Championship this season. The team members are Emma Dent. You going to wave or something when your name is called? Natalie Heinley, Abigail Perkins, Leah Perello, Lily Thomas, Annie Hope Hasty, Sophia Kearney, Jenna Peterman, Riley Stevens, and Bella Ward. Additionally, Emma Dent was the South Carolina High School League state champion in the 100-meter butterfly, and Coach Olivia May was named the Region 3 5A Coach of the Year. Lots to celebrate here. Let's give them a round of applause. I think our swim team snuck up on them, Coach. You knew, she said. Any parents want to take a picture? You got them? Okay, there we go. Congratulations, great job.
Thank you.
Super proud. And dare I say, come back next month for another state championship recognition. All right, next up, we want to recognize Miss Christy Austin and our Tri-District Adult Education staff. If you'll come forward. Tri-District Adult Education was recognized at the Adult Education Fall Celebrating Success Luncheon through the South Carolina Department of Education Office of Career Readiness, and they won the following awards. First, the Young Adult Program Award is presented to the top 15 adult education programs in the state that have achieved the highest percentage of measurable skills gains for students aged 17 to 21. So let's first clap for that award. The second award is the Enrollment Growth Award, and it is presented to the program that had 5% or more enrollment growth over the previous year. So I'm glad to see we're serving more adults in our community. Congratulations on that award. Let's give her a hand for that one. Last, the Facility Enhancement Recognition was presented for renovations to the Fort Mill School District Adult Education Building. And for those of you who don't know, we share an adult education with Fort Mill and York, so we're the Tri-District Adult Ed. So Ms. Austin is over all three of those buildings and programs, so let's give her a big round of applause. Keep up the great work, Ms. Austin. Not to be outdone, right beside her is our Bright Beginnings, Carolyn Green and staff, if you'll come forward. We're very proud to celebrate the Clover School District Bright Beginnings for being recognized as the Blue Ribbon Affiliate by parents as teachers. This prestigious award highlights our unwavering commitment to provide high-quality parent-child education, family engagement, and positive learning outcomes. This achievement reflects the heart and hard work of our teams put into supporting families, nurturing parent-child connections, and helping little ones grow, learn, and thrive. Congratulations to the entire CSD Bright Beginnings team on this well-deserved achievement. And last but certainly not least, Heather Parker, the Task MVP Award. Is Heather here tonight? We're going to talk about her anyway then. Our CSD Transition Specialist, Heather Parker, was named the most valuable player at the Transition Alliance of the South Carolina Task Conference on October the 21st. The Most Valuable Player Award is presented to any special education teacher, job coach, transition specialist, teaching assistant, or adult agency provider who has demonstrated outstanding commitment and direct service to career education, transition, competitive employment, and/or job coaching of students with disabilities. We are so proud of Heather. Let's give her a round of applause to congratulate her. And that concludes our recognitions for this evening, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now's a good time to slip out if anybody doesn't want to stay for the entire thing.
But we've got some amazing students coming up
Oh, yeah.
next, so.
Ms. Knott, do we have anyone signed up for public forum? Okay, thanks. So, Dr. Quinn will go to the superintendent's report.
All right, so we always like to start the superintendent's report with a school spotlight, and tonight we have two schools, Kynard Elementary School and Larn, and they have started something that many of us who've been around a few years will recognize. It's the DARE program, and so I'm going to let Mr. Ruth introduce this initiative and how it came to come back around to this point in time. So, Mr. Ruth.
Thank you, Dr. Quinn, and members of the board. And our students, you can join me right over here. As you may know, board, 3 years ago, we started the Substance Abuse Prevention Task Force in the Clover School District. We're really, really proud of the work that's been done with that task force. And it has three goals: to enforce, empower, and educate. So we do a lot of work around policy and around practices in the enforcement of our policies around substance abuse prevention. The empower and educate is what we'll focus on today. And I just love it when a plan comes together, because we meet monthly about substance abuse prevention and the strategies that we can put into play. And while that was going on, unbeknownst to me, Clover Police Department was presented with an opportunity. And when they're presented with an opportunity, they seize it. They're an outstanding partner, and I want them to talk a little bit about their partnership with Clover School District and about this particular initiative.
Hey, I'm Lieutenant Pinnell with the Clover Police Department, and many of you I've met at some time or another, but on behalf of the Clover Police Department, we just want to thank you all for the opportunity to partner with the Clover School District to be able to bring the DARE program into the district. Our officers here with me is Detective Gordon and Officer Haywood. They're two of our three certified DARE instructors, and so we sent them to a week-long or 2 week long? 2 week long training session this past summer in July, and they were both, last July, wasn't it? Yeah, last July, and they had the opportunity to go through an extensive training program to be a certified DARE officer. And so after that, we wanted the opportunity to be able to bring the program into the school district. And so we met with some of the district leaders and some of the principals and presented our opportunity to be able to do that. And we want to thank you all for your partnership with us. We've learned from that the officers that are teaching in the classrooms have been able to make really positive connections with the students that they teach on a day-to-day basis. The program was successful this year, and we're looking forward to relaunching that next year and offering that maybe even to more schools as we see fit. But thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the DARE program is offered to our 5th grade students, and we thought we'd have some of them come tonight and speak to you. You'll see some pictures from DARE graduation at Larn Elementary, and we'll have that coming up at Kynard Elementary very soon as well. And so at the end of this, there's some other pictures you'll be able to see. But we have, we'll start with Kynard Elementary, and Harper's here with us to talk a little bit about what she's learned.
Hi, my name is Harper Holmes. I'm a 5th grader at Kynard Elementary School, and my takeaway from the DARE program is the decision-making model, which stands for D, define the problem, A, assess the choices, R, respond by choosing the best option, and E, evaluate the decision. I use this model as a simple and realistic set of steps with friendships and academic choices. It helps us slow down, analyze the situation, and choose what's best for us instead of acting on impulse or pressure.
All right, this project came about. I remember we were at a meeting at the 9th grade campus, and we were sitting around talking with the student ambassadors, and a lot of them said, what is that name of that program that I always hear folks talking about? And it was DARE. Some folks said Just Say No. That's kind of my neck of the woods a little bit, but there's all these different programs, and many of the adults in the room talked about the impact that it had on them, and you would see them just sit, kind of look off in the distance. I remember my DARE officer. I remember the shirts that we had. And I remember the messaging that came across in that program. So I've asked Avery from Lauren Elementary to come and talk a little bit about how will you take what you've learned and use it in the future.
My name is Avery, and I will use the DARE program in the future by when someone comes up to you inside or outside of school, you can either walk away and say no or go tell a trusted adult.
All right. Once again, very proud of them and very thankful for this program. So we'll entertain any questions you may have at this time.
No questions, but great job, ladies. Thank you.
Oh, very good.
Was it fun, though? Was the program fun? Yeah, it was. How did the officers do? Were they good teachers?
Good answer.
Good answer. Good answer.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Good job. Thanks, members of Keinert and Lauren, for being here tonight to support those students. Next up, we have Ms. Beth Goff. She's going to be talking about another fun topic, school report cards and the ratings that Clover School District schools achieved in this round of report cards. So there's a lot of complicated moving parts with this, but I want to say right now that I'm very proud of all of our schools. So Ms. Goff, if you would explain how we did.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Quinn, and members of the board for your attention tonight. It is my pleasure to talk to you about our school report cards. So these haven't changed. These are the same. There are things that have, but this is not. So this is a slide from the past. We have academic achievement, which is based on SC Ready scores in grades 3 through 8 for math and ELA. We also have that at the high school level coming out of our EOCs. We have preparing for success, which is our science and social studies metric. So for grades 3 through 8, that is 4th and 6th grade science. So we're only testing one grade level, and we do not have any history testing at the elementary level. For preparing for success at the high school level, that is our EOCs for biology, typically taken in the 10th grade, and U.S. history typically taken as a junior. We have a category for our multilingual learners. That English learners progress is still labeled that way, but in different places it says MLL or ELL, same thing. We do have schools that don't have enough of those in a subgroup for it to actually calculate for us, so I'll show you where those points go in just a moment. We have student progress, which is about the growth from one year to the next. That is a elementary and middle school metric, and it is literally about how our students performed last year and where the state needed them to achieve to get greater proficiency the next year and how far they went toward that target. We have graduation rate, as you know, is from the high school and college and career readiness. Missing from this slide is school climate, which isn't something that we necessarily control directly, that metric. We do in that we provide an amazing school climate, and our ratings are consistent across our schools for that. But it's not one we really dig into how we determine that metric because it's based on a survey. So it's about how we do the business every day. There's not a particular thing that we pull out and work on specifically. Also new to the high school is the on-track metric, and they are building that in over time. So those have different weightings at the different levels. So you can see here the elementary and middle school rating, with the vast majority coming from academic achievement, math and ELA, and student progress, their growth. The high school report card shifted year before last to look like this. They took some parts out of the weighting to create the high school success, which Mr. Ruth will talk to you in just a minute about how we get that metric built. Part of it is still being reported, not scored. So it's still building in, but nevertheless, it is 19 points of that, 12 points of that high school report card. If we do not have 20 English language learners in a particular school for a particular year, those 10 points from the category are split in half. So half of them go to adjust the achievement rating and half go to student progress at the elementary and middle level. Our high school, they would go into similar categories, except we, with the size of our high school, do meet that subgroup every year, so we've never had to adjust ratings for that. This is what it looks like this year. So all of your up arrows are places where we have grown from a rating, an overall rating. It does not mean we didn't grow points-wise. It means we didn't move levels in terms of the report card rating for a particular indicator. So you can see that 4 of our schools had improved overall ratings this school year, and one of those being Clover Middle. So all of us know the challenges that come with those middle years and how there's a lot of opportunity for growth and reaching out to those students, and they historically have had some of the hardest times on the state assessment. So they are starting to show gains that we can see in that report card metric. The other categories didn't necessarily go down. Most of them held just where they are. So that's what it looks like overall. Noting our high school there at the bottom with excellent in all of those metrics that the state is pushing us to meet for that, and Mr. Ruth will talk to those specifics. Academic achievement and preparing for success, as I told you, was based on SC Ready scores. And so this is what we look like over time. So coming from before the pandemic until now, that tallest green and darkest green in each of those is looking at this year's rating. And then the gray right beside it to its right is the state rating for that. I would like you to note that that is a 12-point gain from the state on the ELA side of the house, and a 19.4 difference on the math side of the house. So while that's not as steep of a climb in math as it is in ELA, it is definitely notable that we are doing some different things to help our students attain the math skills that they need to be proficient.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. I'll briefly touch on some metrics associated with the secondary level at the high school. We'll look at end-of-course testing to begin with. And what I'll do across these 3 slides, I'm going to give you a quick fact about it, and then I want to highlight and brag on some folks a little bit as well. So you'll see on the EOCs, some things that will change. You'll see a shift in this in the next couple of years, is that algebra and geometry are changing in the progression. You know, geometry is going down to the middle school and coming before algebra now. So it's a little bit more aligned in that our students at the high school will be taking all of their EOC classes or all of their EOCs at the high school level. So you'll see a shift there. But you'll see on average, we're 14.5% above the state overall. And I do want to brag on biology a little bit, as you see that we're 26.2% above the state. And this represents an 8% increase from last year's biology EOC scores as well. So a lot of hard work done by those teachers, so I want to brag on them. But overall, the renewed emphasis that the high school is putting on EOCs is paying dividends there.
Can I say this too? This is a C or higher, not a D or higher.
C or higher, that is
This
correct.
is not the pass rate. This is.
That's right.
The state selects a college and career ready cut score, and they said you got to get a C or higher to be college ready. So that's what these numbers represent.
A few things to dissect here. You'll see from the college or career readiness. And I can tell you, this is one of those things that's really caught on, even outside of talking about metrics within a school. College or career readiness is the language that you hear all around when you're talking about schools right now. So we are excellent in this category, very excited about that. 7.6% above the state average there. You'll see the career readiness assessment too that our juniors take, 21.6% above the state. And the reason we do so well with that, and I'll brag on folks right now, a lot of folks at the high school, Blaine Jolly in particular. So you take this your junior year, she identifies those seniors the next year that may not have passed all the elements of that, and she allows retakes. The state allows for that retake, but she facilitates a lot of that along with our testing coordinator. So really proud, because it's just not a one and done for our high school folks. They're going to continue to work with those students to make sure they're college or career ready. The work-based learning and the credit that we're getting for that, I'm extremely proud of. Back in, Dr. Quinn, I look back in 2021, our numbers didn't look like they look now. I look back at about 6 students that we were getting credit for in 2021 and 98 students that we're getting credit for now. So really proud of that. You see, we also knock it out of the park with AP testing. AP testing is a little funny because some school districts have different requirements about who gets to take those AP tests. But what I'm proud of is we have 15 offerings in AP. So it's not as though it's just a niche group that we have a small number of offerings and we're really restricting it. We try to offer, it's grown so much over the years, the number of AP offerings that we have. So really proud about how well we do in AP. But you can see college and career readiness. And then obviously along the right side there, the CCI programs and the work that's done by Kerry Boland and Wayne Williams and that team is outstanding, and that's why everybody wants to visit us. I'm very excited thinking about bringing on the second high school and making sure that we're maintaining that level of excellence in our CCI programs. And then finally, you'll see here a little bit tougher to read, but at the bottom there is our 5-year graduation rate. We obviously maintain one of the highest grad rates in the state, but we continue to work with those students that might need a little bit of extra time in order to get across the finish line. And I can tell you the on-track rate, and the way we look at that, the category is our success in high school, 6 credits, 1 in math and 1 in ELA each year, because that puts you on track to graduate in order to get all the credits that you need by high school graduation. And we shine in the state as it relates to this. So this particular year, for our first year and our second year, last year, which would be our 10th and 11th graders this year, you can see that we're well over 96%, or around 96% in those categories. I love it because Mr. Peeler worked with those students last year, and having Mr. Peeler and Mr. Courtright battle to see if they can get more students across the finish line is something to behold, because you know the competitive nature of each of them, and you can see it's paid off right here as well. So our students are on track, and that's going to bode well for our graduation rate moving forward.
Mr. Ruth is leaving me with the fun slide, so I'm going to try to talk very slowly through some of this. So there are 3 ways that we can calculate student progress. There are a stack of formulas that do involve a lot of math that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to most of us. And like I said, I have to talk slowly to make sense of it myself. But I hope that I have captured the essence of each of those 3 ratings, but I want to tell you how each is calculated, but also which ones mattered this year. So as Mr. Ruth spoke to, the math sequence of courses is changing. And so next year, we're going to do what I'm getting ready to tell you we did for English this year. So as we have adjusted where the standards are and what that assessment looks like, they don't create the same targets. So this year, when I talk about this, English is only rated in the first one, which is a value added measure. And then math is actually rated in all 3. Those are averaged together to create that. You get an English score, you get a math score, and then we average those together to actually get the rating points. And that's not even the funny math. The funny math gets in the weeds here, so I'm going to also talk to you about that. So we affectionately term the value added measure as a black box calculation, because it's not something that as a district you can really calculate and predict for yourself, because it has to do with how students score across the state in the previous year as well as the current year. So we know how students scored last year, but we don't necessarily know in time how students across the state, we know how our kids perform, but we don't know how the kids across the state perform. So it's very difficult to align that and to create what the target should have been and could be, and if they met it or not. So it's not very predictable, which is why my friends call it a black box calculation. But basically, it's looking at if a student scored a certain number on last year's SC Ready, and they needed to score in 1 year's growth a number that's 20 higher. If they scored 20 higher, it's worth 0. If they score any more higher, points higher than that, they get points for however far they were from that target. If they score lower, it subtracts. And we put all of those together to create that difference or effect size from our performance against the state performance. That's simplifying the math, but that's basically what they're doing, is they're looking at how you should have performed last year to this year, and did you meet or exceed that particular annual growth target. Questions about that one?
So if I was in the 95th percentile and I stay in the 95th percentile, 0.
Yes.
If I was in the 95th percentile last year and I go to the 96th, we get some points for that.
Correct.
If I'm in the 95th, I drop to the 94th, we lose points for that, but we still have a very high-performing students. You see how it's kind of very hard. Once you score high, you have to maintain that. Your last year should predict your next year, and you can't lose any ground in the growth calculation.
And when you have a lot of students, and some of our schools really do, that are high achieving, keeping your ground in the exceeds category is very difficult. So historically, we have not done super well in terms of the value added metric. which is why we're excited about the new calculations. So they just flip-flopped the words. So now we're going to talk about added value. And there are two ways that they look at added value. So the first one is the simplest. And basically you met it or you didn't. And it's the percentage of students who met a target in their school. Now, what target is that? That's where it gets a little tricky. So as I told you, the state is pushing towards proficiency. So it's not just that you made an annual growth, it's that you met that plus some so that you're being even greater proficient, moving toward greater proficiency. So if I'm a low exceeds kid, they want me to be a higher exceeds kid the next year. So that's what my target is set. It might be just a few points, but the climb is really difficult. We also have students who are scoring in does not meets who need to climb 50, 60, 70 points from one year to the next to meet their added value target because it's trying to get them out of does not meets to approaches to meets. By the time that the student reaches 8th grade, the state is trying to set targets that would have pulled all of those students out of the non-proficient categories into the proficient categories, in addition to moving students who were meeting or exceeding into higher categories for that. So those targets are set are pretty steep, is what I'm saying to you. This is the category that we did the best in this year. So as I said to you, all of these were used and then averaged together. So this was the high point for the vast majority of our schools in terms of the average for creating the student progress rating. The last one is the one that is the most difficult to calculate. It does make a lot of sense, it just the math behind it is a little difficult. So what it is looking at is taking those steep targets. Each student was given a growth percentile. So if I'm an exceeds kid, I am in the 55th growth percentile. And the most points I can earn for meeting my target is 3 points. 1 for meeting my ABT, MAT, and 3 for meeting my ABT. If I'm on the opposite end of that, and I am a student working in the 80th growth percentile, I was a does not meet 2, so I was in the lowest performing group of the prior year's SC Ready, and I am going to have a very tall climb to get to proficiency because it's going to push me hard toward that. So I have the most points available in my target, and I also get the most points if I meet my target. So that is worth 14 points, 13 for the ABT and 1 for the MAT. So every student has the opportunity to earn a different amount of points. If I take all that we could have earned on the bottom, all that we did earn on the top, that's how they calculate this. And so the did earn comes from making progress to my goal. So let's say I'm in the 80th percentile. If I had to go 60 points and I only went 30, I get half of my points. So instead of scoring the 14, I'm going to score 7. So 7 to the numerator and 14 to the denominator. But we're getting points to the rating based on our students' progress toward it. I anticipated that we would actually get more points here in terms of the rating than in the overall meeting of the ABTs. But if you factor in the state and all of these aren't just about how many points did we move, but it also has to do with how did we align within the state movement as well. So while we didn't move where we might have wanted to move in terms of percentage of students who met those extra ABTs, we still did a whole lot better than a lot of our counterparts in the state. So I hope that makes some sense for these 3 pieces and how they average together. But if not, I will gladly entertain some questions. I do want to answer one before it's asked, and all of that was about SC Ready, but you also hear us as an instruction department talk a lot about iReady, and I wanted to tell you why. iReady is our formative assessment, so we take that 3 times a year, the beginning, the middle, and not at the end, but nearer to the end. That is our predictor for SC Ready. But more than the predictor, it is something that we can use to know what we've made in terms of each individual's progress toward the things that they needed. So if it was indicating that they were low in a particular area of reading or math, it allows us to put greater intention behind instructional intervention for that. And so we're starting to close the gaps with that. And that's why we talk a lot about iReady. And the goals in iReady aren't necessarily matching the ABT, but if we aim for the stretch goals in iReady, we're going to see us move these ABT targets.
So Beth, if you'll go back to the slide that had the report card ratings on it, just real quick, board, if you want to know the quick way I look at it when I talk to principals, if you see the schools that scored average on growth, that basically means the students last year performed about the same as they did the year before. The students this year performed about the same as they did last year. They didn't hit higher growth targets. They really kind of held. And if you see good, they were slightly better in terms of their growth. And if you see below average, they were slightly below that. So we had none in unsatisfactory, but we held, or we had, the majority held or did slightly better. We had 2 schools that did slightly less as a unit. That's a quick and easy way to think about that.
I'm glad you all understand this and are able to do it. I guess my question would be between at the end here, the progress calculations. So just to understand it, because at first I was like, oh wait, they don't get any credit for getting better if they started out lower, but they do in the end. So if you need to go up 20 points and you go up 21, you start back over at that where you should be and then get a plus point, but you also get credit for your going up
In the first one.
in the first one. Okay.
Yes. If your goal was 20 and you got 21, that would meet in the second one and in the third one because you met 100% of the goal.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And you get the most points for pulling the students who are farthest behind up, which makes sense, because
Yes.
you're trying to move more kids to grade level.
Just make sure you keep showing the other slide. That's the only one I can read.
Yeah. This metric was supposed to be easier, and it's unfortunately because they've mixed 3 different ways to look at growth, you can't predict it anymore. You just have to teach the grade level standards, you have to teach them deeply, and you have to really push students to get to those higher levels of thinking with standards. That's all you can really do to control this metric.
And we also do a lot with that. So you hear our initiative terms back and forth, but we have impact teams. We've talked about personalized learning. We've talked about student-centered learning. It's not separate from this work. Those are the things we are doing to provide really rich experiences in grade level standards so that no matter what a state assessment throws at our kids are ready to do that on the test. They have what they need to take the question and go, oh, that's the distractor. Let me cross that one out. Let me make a better guess. Or they really know it and they absolutely read the question, read the prompt, read the answer, circle it, and move on. So it's about how we're going to provide greater and greater experiences. So as you hear some of the instructional shifts that sound like they're different from this, they're really not. They're working in concert together to make sure that our students are getting what they need.
I would ask a question, but I probably wouldn't understand the answer. I do have one question. If we could go back to real quick to the U.S. history. I know we've struggled for that for years. I used to be in the middle of that. At one time, we had moved U.S. history to a year-long course with 9 weeks for government. We combined it. Doesn't seem like, that's really worked, I guess, real well because we're still, I know we're higher than the state, and that's wonderful, but a 56% rate in history, have we been able to identify why that is, why that's such a hard EOC?
I think there's a couple of factors at play, and I said this to Mr. Ruth this morning. I said, it looks sad, and it is sad. I want it to be higher. First of all, that is the C or better, not pass rate. So I do want to say that again, because our pass rate is also improving. And it was by nature of the way the state gives us credit for those things, and U.S. government is a separate course. There are other pieces of social studies that are also graduation requirements. So the semester is kind of where we landed to meet all of the needs of our students across the things they have to have for graduation. But as I was talking to Mr. Ruth this morning, I said one of the things about the U.S. history assessment is it's one of the toughest ones. I would say biology is similar in terms of the text complexity that our students are being asked to read. So a student who's struggling with reading and comprehending large amounts of text not only do they have to know the historical fact and connections, but they have to be able to read that in the question and find it in the answer choices. So it's really text dense in terms of an assessment. So it's almost judging them on English as much as it is comprehension, as much as it is U.S. history and that knowledge. But I also said to Mr. Ruth, because of a policy that I love about exam exemption, our students haven't necessarily taken that level of assessment that was that high stakes and required for a couple of years. Because keep in mind that a lot of our students take their EOCs in their 9th grade year because they've moved. Half of our students take those EOCs early because they've been in advanced track from middle school. And so it's been a couple of years since they've had to take an assessment of that magnitude with that kind of density in front of them. So I'm not making an excuse, but I am telling you, it's a different assessment.
It's still an 11th grade course?
It is an 11th grade
I was
course.
just gonna, I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Thank you. I was just gonna specify, because I remember Mr. Ballard, you're probably thinking of foundations, and so when we led into U.S. history and it was a longer course for those 11th graders, we actually moved away from that. So if you're seeing that change in it, you're saying, do we need to change something else? We moved away from them taking as much U.S. history as juniors did in the past for a couple of reasons. You have to balance things out. You have to say, okay, how am I going to allocate teachers so that I don't have to keep adding social studies teachers as a result of that? But then also just the high number of courses that students want to take and need to take in general. So as we added more requirements, we had to begin to shift away from them taking what equated to really a year-long social studies as a junior. So we've been a few years now that we've not done that anymore. So that's probably what you're remembering.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Ruth or Ms. Goff? All right, thank you very much. Board, I'm going to ask Dr. Hopkins to come forward for an impact fee report, an update. There is no PowerPoint for this. This is a verbal update because we want to make sure you and our community are aware. Obviously, you're aware that we've gone through a revision of our impact fee study. It's required that you have a 10-year capital improvement plan. We had one in 2020. It's required every 5 years that you go back and revisit that capital improvement plan with the Planning Commission. We did that in 2025. So we have two different studies. We have the 2020 study and the 2025 study. And we are now at the place where the council will be deciding what our impact fee is. So I want Dr. Hopkins, to update you on a request that we received at the last county council meeting. So if you'll do that, please.
Yes, if you've been following it, which I'm sure you have, we've gone through 3 second readings and got moved to the 3rd reading unanimously by the council a couple of weeks back. As Dr. Quinn mentioned, in 2019 and 20, we developed our new capital improvement plan, which identified the needs for our new schools that we're in the process of building now. At that same time, we engaged with an independent third party, Tischler Bice, who is known for their work on impact fees in the state, to develop our 2020 impact fee technical report. And if you remember at that time, it developed a fee that was allowable up to $15,000. Through that process, the council awarded us $4,000, and that has been in place since then. Here it is, 2025. We're halfway through our 10-year CIP. At that time, we're required to do a review of our CIP and of our impact fee technical report, which we began and did. We've made our way through the Planning Commission, through 2nd reading of the council. And Dr. Quinn mentioned there was a suggestion made. That first plan was really developed district-wide because the data that we had gathered from the county of planned residential developments really encompassed the entire district. We had some planned developments in the Bethany side, several on the Lake Wylie side. So it really did show that there was growth occurring across Clover School District. It seems that the trends have changed a little bit over the last 5 years. More of the growth, anything that was over on the western side has pretty much been built out. There's more growth on the eastern side of the district. And so the council suggested that we may take a narrower view of the impact fee study and where that growth is occurring. And they suggested that we use the USB, which stands for the Urban Service Boundary. And this is a county designated boundary within which they focus their efforts to provide the infrastructure necessary for growth. And that USB roughly goes from just west of 321, around Clover, and just south of 55, down to about Parham Road, and then it goes down to the bottom of the district. So it encompasses from the central to the eastern part of the school district. And so they told us to take a look at that, and we started gathering the information. I got the updated numbers from the county on where we stand with the approved residential developments, got those from the town of Clover. We took a little look, and yes, it does look like maybe that growth is beginning to focus a little more within that USB area. So we re-engaged with our third-party independent reviewer, Tischler Bice, shared with them all the data. They're in the process right now of going through to see if the growth is confined mostly to that area, and the impact fee technical report would support the fee being applied to that USB area. He's working on that now. We don't know what the outcome of that will be. It very well may show that the growth is centered in that area. It may show that it may not be, and that will determine how we proceed. If we get the study in time for the December 1st meeting, which would be our third reading meeting, we will be able to present that information at that time and proceed with hopeful approval at that time. If we don't get that, we may have to seek a deferral to make sure that our study is complete and accurate to be able to put before the council for approval. And just as a reminder, the USB, the council did approve moving this forward to third reading unanimously, and that if it does work out, they would apply the full $15,200 from the first fee within the USB area if it is awarded. But we still have a few more hurdles to cross as we get to that point, but I wanted to make sure that you understood the new variable that was given us by the county council and what we're doing in an effort to sort of address that and see if their suggestion may work. I want to give the opportunity for any questions that you may have regarding the impact fee or the process. Okay, well, I hope we'll see you all there on the 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, Mr. Ballard, going back to the history, back in, I think, 2010 or 11, to show you the consistency of poor achievement on that test, I think we were in the low 60s, and I won a state award. Clover High School won a state award for achievement on the end of course for history with a just over 60 pass rate. So it's always been a very tough exam, and as he said, it's not facts like maybe biology would be or math. There is a lot of interpretation.
Well, and there's more of it now, too.
Yeah, and there's more
History
of it.
keeps growing. Yeah.
Amazing how that works.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next up, we have our calendar recommendation. Ms. Knott, if you'll come forward.
Certainly. Good evening. You will recall that this is our third visit to discuss calendars. At the first meeting, we presented you with 3 draft calendars. At the second meeting, we took a look at some feedback, and we still had some feedback to hear that we received the day after that meeting. So this evening, we are ready to move forward with a recommendation. So I'd like to walk you back through the last feedback we've received, some tweaks that we've made, and share with you hopefully the final draft of Calendar A. So we had feedback still to hear from the leadership team, and we received that following the last meeting of the board. The members of the leadership team continued to express support for Draft A. A couple of other things that they had to share was that they too would like to see moving forward 2 calendars being proposed at a time so that families had that information at longer term and could plan for vacations and the like. They also asked us to take a look at the June 1 teacher workday to see if that could be moved ahead of Memorial Day. Spoiler alert, it can't. And then lastly, they wanted to look at the placement of the first teacher workday, first quarter teacher workday. And that couldn't move either. So the board asked us some questions at the last meeting regarding early release and half days. Again, we had received feedback from staff and parents alike on the survey and from our various feedback groups that families were confused about having two different schedules. And so, as Dr. Quinn indicated that evening of the second reading, the state does limit us to 3 half-days, but there is not a limit on the number of early release days. So in order to make some kind of change, we would need to convert the half-days to early release days, which is what our proposal would be, so that in the final version of Calendar A that you'll see this evening, instead of having 3 half-days and 4 early release days, you'll see a total of 7 early release days. Cabinet also reviewed this daily schedule that's in place for both early release and half-days and proposed a modification to our early release schedule that kind of meets in the middle between the early release time and the half-day time. So moving forward into the 26-27 school year, again, we would have 7 early release days, with elementary school dismissing at 11:30, middle school at 12:30, and high school at 1:30. So we were able to clear that up.
I'm wondering, and this is a question, if 3 of those early release days have to be designated as the half or not. I don't think so, because I think it's just semantics, but I know the state allows 3 half. I guess if they see 7 early release, they're not going to be looking for half. I'm not sure about that.
I think again, there doesn't seem to be a requirement around the early release. The requirement, of course, is around seat time. So I think as long as the seat time is met, then you do have the early release flexibility as opposed to the half-day.
Ms. Knott, if you could clarify, it says we received feedback there were too many early release days in the calendar, but now we've added more early release days.
We have not, because we have, well, initially, let me say this. So the first draft that you saw actually had 6 early release days. And so the Clover School District traditionally has had only 4 early release days. So I was being a little extra generous after studying some of the models of other school districts. So we removed those 2 extra early release days and then rolled the 3 half-days into the 4 early release days. Does that make sense?
It just seems confusing. It says we got feedback there were too many early release days in the calendar, and now we've added more.
So there actually were more in the first calendar, as I said, because we put 6 and 3. And so that would have been 9. And so that the feedback about too many was on 9 days. So we're actually back to 7 now. Okay. Does that help?
Yes, ma'am.
So there were a couple of other tweaks made to Draft A's calendar. None of them changed any days when students would be out of school. All of those days remained the same. But again, final discussion through Cabinet made some cleanup adjustments to things like when some of those early release days were scheduled so that they were better suited to the ends of grading periods and some things like that. But all of the days, again, in the calendar itself in terms of when students are in school or when students are out of school have remained the same from the earlier iteration that you have seen.
And none of our feedback groups wanted a different calendar more than they wanted this calendar.
That is correct. Calendar A rose to the top on the surveys that we did both with staff and with families, and it was the preferred calendar of all of the feedback groups that it was shared with. And so our recommendation this evening would be the adoption of Draft A as presented this evening.
Any questions from the board? Without objection, the board will approve Draft A of the 26-27 calendar as presented. Hearing none, the calendar is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Ms. Knott, thank you. All right, next up, we have our policies for second reading, and these have been very straightforward. Ms. Sauls?
Thank you, Dr. Quinn. Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Quinn mentioned, we have 7 policies that are up for second reading that I'm presenting to you tonight. Most of them surround student services and student life, including absences and attendance, absences for participation in extracurricular activities regarding our CTE programs and clubs. Our sexual harassment and retaliation policy is also up for revision, where we ensure that it aligns with our Title IX policies, and there were some other nuanced language changes within that policy, but it outlines reporting of such instances in the event of that. Our personal electronic devices policy, our cell phone policy, there were more language changes there that we have created, have instituted, and then our life-saving medications included the addition of 2 medications that were not previously on the list, as well as a slight language change with DHEC and changing it to its new name, the Department of Public Health. That is kind of a summary of the policies. At our last meeting, there were no additional revisions that were recommended, so we are asking to move forward with the policies as presented.
Any questions from the board? All right, without objection, the board will approve policies IC, IHBH, JH, JHE, JIAA, JIJC, JLCBD. Hearing none, the policies are approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have our operations report. Dr. Hopkins?
Good evening again. I wanted to just take a moment before I start talking about the construction of facilities, just to give you a short little safety update. We've been doing a lot of work, the safety team has. As you may know, we have a safety team that convenes. We have a standing meeting every Wednesday. We don't necessarily meet every Wednesday. We may change that from time to time, but we do meet. And one of our efforts over the last couple of months has been reunification. And that has sort of been spurred on. The state has contracted with a company called the Critical Response Group. And they are working with the state and all the school districts to develop a statewide plan or database for law enforcement to be able to access the floor plans of all the schools within the state. Just so you know, we do that with our local law enforcement already, but this is an official effort to do that. So that got us thinking a little bit more about what we need to do to update our plan in case we were in a situation where we would have to leave the school and get our students and our parents back together at another site. So we've been spending a lot of time on that with our law enforcement partners, the sheriff's department, the police department, some of our fire departments, going over the maps and our processes. I don't want to say too much, but we're going through those with a fine-tooth comb with our partners, and we hope to have that plan review finalized, and we'll be retraining, starting a retraining effort in January with our district staff, and then with our principals, and ultimately our schools over second semester, just to sort of reinforce the procedures we already have in place for reunification. So that's one of our big efforts right now. But there's some other things that are going on. Thankfully, for the board, you provided us with the money to get some CHEA weapons detectors annually. We have ordered those. They're not here yet. We will be getting 3 of the full-grade weapons detectors coming in. Those will be added to the secondary schools. So there will be 2 at ninth grade campus, 2 at each middle school, and 4 at the high school. So we will have a guidelines and a plan for a little more, let's say, ferocious deployment in second semester. We have picked up the pace on that. Mr. Ruth has viewed a couple as we go into the semester, so we feel like those are picking up with the drug dogs. We have also received, I ordered 8 CHEA handheld detectors. These are the handheld ones, but they are the higher grade, like the weapons detectors. I ordered one of those for each elementary school, just so they have on site in case a situation arises where they would need to search someone. And we will deploy those before Christmas as well. Just to sort of see what we've been doing as far as schools, our schools, as of last Wednesday, there's been a few since then, but we've conducted over 70 emergency drills so far this school year, and that includes team assists. Team assists are a way within the Raptor app, which you're familiar with, for the school to communicate with one another during an emergency or to find out information. And it's really a sign to us that the schools are beginning to use Raptor in the right kinds of ways. So I included that as evidence of that. So we've had 11 lockdown drills, 5 secure, 28 evacuate, 7 shelter, 13 team assists. We've had actually 9 real emergencies initiated in Raptor, 6 of which have been holds, and those were where the drug dog comes onto the campus. We put the campus into a hold, so those are legitimate. We've had 2 secures at Oak Ridge schools. We had some criminal activity in proximity to that over in the Lake Wylie area, so we put those on a secure. And then we've had 1 evacuation, some issues with Bethel HVAC earlier in the year, and the fire alarm. So that was the 9 actual emergencies that have shown up on Raptor. But we do keep track of all that. All of our schools have a drill schedule that they follow. We know when to anticipate them. And it's also an accountability record. It keeps track of when those drills were held and the data that's connected with those in terms of the length of it, the number of people that responded, et cetera. So I wanted to just give you a quick look at that before we jumped into the high schools, and know that we've got some more coming, and I hope to be able to provide you with some deeper safety updates as we get into the second semester, okay? Now on, let's talk a little bit about the construction at Lake Wylie High School. Had an opportunity to go out there today. Every time I visit, it's just amazing what's going on, and I owe you one. The exterior masonry, the brick on the outside is almost complete. There's some metal facade to go on the exterior surfaces, but the masonry is about to wrap up. The decking is on the auditorium. They're in the process now of putting the insulation and the roof membrane on, so they're thinking by Wednesday, barring a little bit of rain that may come in, they're hoping to have that last piece of the building dried in. So we will be 100% dried in across the building. And Mr. Burris, I thought about you as you walked through today. You'd be proud about how clean those hallways are. No mud and water in those. The interior finishes are rolling along. There's a lot of ceiling grid going up, cabling and conduits are going in. You see the cable trays, et cetera, up. Canopies are going up outside of the building. The curbing for the roads and the first layer of asphalt, which they call binder, will be going down this week on the access roads right next to the building. And you see the canopies going up. They look really nice. And the athletic package is in full swing. The turf is inside of the track. They'll be doing the surface of the track here in the next week or so. I think before Christmas they'll have it prepared. The baseball field and softball field are coming along. The press boxes are built. The dugouts are built. The backstops are lined up. The tennis court has had the sidewalks poured, which means that the surface is the next step in that, the playing surface. So it looks really good out there right now. Things are happening at a quick pace. Every day something new's happening. And as usual, I have a little video here for you. Whoops. What do I hit to send it? There we go. Do it at 1.5. All right, we're going up the main entrance right here. Going up the main entrance to Lake Wylie High School. You can see the front entrance, that 2-story flat part is the administrative area down below. Media center up top on the right side, the 2 3-story academic wings. You can see the masonry is up and about done. You see the decking on the auditorium in the middle. That will be white membrane like the other roofs here within the end of the week. See the curbing on the access road. That will be the bus loading area. See the beginnings of the canopy going up in that corner. That will be the bus drop-off area for the high school. We're going around the back of the school. To the right will be the practice field, future home of the stadium. Straight ahead, the round area is the auditorium. To the left, fine arts, chorus, and drama. And then to the right, the second floor of that with the big windows is the cafeteria and the porch, which will overlook the future stadium. And then below that are the athletic areas. Those rooms immediately through those doors is the weight room. So those will be roll-up doors where they will be able to access right onto the playing field at any time. Coming around to the gym entrance to the left of the support areas where they'll bring in the food, et cetera. This is the main entrance to the gym. You see the canopy up there. This is where students that drive and park will enter the building each day, and they will make their way to where they need to go once they're in the building. Right there in the middle is the ninth grade wing. That two-story wing will be home to the ninth graders at Lake Wiley High School. I think we'll jump over to the athletic area. I'll just jump ahead a little bit. There's the football field. It is going to be grass, so they will be able to use it for a practice field. It's not going to be lit, but they will have practice field. That's the student parking area, part of the student parking area. See the softball field there being laid out, press box. That is the batting cage that will be shared initially. There is spot for a second one if it's necessary down the road. Baseball field. Tennis courts, as I mentioned, those exterior walkways will allow for the courts actually to be poured on asphalt soon. You see the turf is completely in and lined up. All that's left is really the track surface going on. It looks really, really nice out there. Over to the left, or right in the center of that road you see into the left is the band, and that field to the right is the band practice field. Now, it will be used for other things, but the band has first right of refusal on that during marching season. We are going to put up a fence around that. We have had a little bit of an issue with some four-wheelers out there, but we've got some temporary fencing up, which has seemed to help, and we will continue with that. But work on Daimler is progressing, about finished up. The lane widening and the arrows and markings will come up soon. But there's a brief look at what's happening at Lake Wiley High School. Any questions about the high school?
Dr. Hopkins, are the plans to play lacrosse and soccer next year at Lake Wiley High School?
Yes. What we did is we, when we line that, it's lined for soccer and football. And then like at Clover High School, it's got the tick marks for boys and girls lacrosse. I think now, though, there's one field that boys and girls can play on. So there is a unified field that it's ticked for. But we worked with Mr. Peeler and Mr. Courtwright to make sure that it was lined the way they wanted to appropriately. Now, we will share the stadium the first several years, not only for football. I'm sure there'll be some other big games that will be shared with. I know the soccer and lacrosse often play up there. I'm sure that those details will be worked out closer to time by the athletic staff, what works best for them and their parents.
I just didn't know if the plans were to put in bleachers
Yes.
on that turf field.
It'll be 500 seats, and there is restroom facilities there as well. All right, quick look at Liberty Hill Elementary School. The second floor, the rear area, the load-bearing masonry is about to complete. They're going up with the roof steel. The early childhood areas, kindergarten, the admin areas, the mechanical, painting, ceiling grids progressing. The metal roof where you see that red area that everybody's asked about, that's not the roof. The metal roof will go on that areas. The exterior masonry is about wrapped up. The bus drop-off, that's the last thing. Once they get the masons out of there and the cranes out of the way, they'll be able to do that curbing and the canopies around the building for bus drop-off. And Ms. O'Brien has made her selections, and we were able to get our playground ordered in time to take advantage of the grants that come along with that. We are going to have to store it for a little bit, but we do have that in play and ready to roll when the time comes. Just to give you a little look here at Liberty Hill Elementary School. Here we are coming off Cannonball Run. Up the entrance. Our beautiful retention ponds. I think we've got 6 ponds on the property. There we go, front view of Liberty Hill Elementary, straight ahead. Visitor, student parking and drop-off in the front. Not parent parking and drop-off in the front. The main entrance, that area to the right under the red roof, is the early childhood and kindergarten and administrative areas. That's getting wrapped up. We should see the metal roofing go on those gabled areas soon. That will be the loading zone for the cafeteria that's going in right there, loading docks. You can see the masonry continuing on the last part of the 2-story wing is coming along. Once they finish that exterior masonry, they'll get that ceiling grid up, and then it'll be covered with the membrane looking red like that main office area does. And that area over those 2-floor wings will also be metal roof, metal raised seam roof. So it's coming along well, and just like with the high school, once they get the masons complete and get their equipment out of there and the cranes out of there, they'll be able to start cleaning and dressing up closer around to the building, putting in the access roads, curbing, asphalt binder, parking lots, et cetera. That area courtyard will be the entire play area. It's a very big area. It's going to have basketball goals. It'll have the early childhood, and pre-K playgrounds, and then an older playground that was selected by Miss O'Brien. But a lot of things happening out there. Just as exciting as visiting the high school is visiting Liberty Hill Elementary, because things are happening very quickly out there. I think Miss O'Brien has made her final color selections, and so we've got those decisions made. So we're now entering the home stretch over the next 6 months or so. We're going to be dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and we're still on track to take possession of Liberty Hill Elementary June 1 and Lake Wylie High School July 1. Any questions? Thank you for the opportunity to share.
All right, next up, we have our monthly finance report. Mr. Love?
Dr. Quinn and members of the board, we have our standard report today. The notice through October, $23.7 million collected, $37.6 million expended. That's normal for this time of year, and this is through the end of October. We can't get into November later. And it's always a minute before they send us the tax collections. This is our standard report that they print out from the general ledger that shows each of the summary accounts, just like we have been in the past. It should have been in your report if you look through it. And the biggest part of my report tonight is the presentation by our auditors from Green, Finney, and Hawley. I have Ken Meadows here. The sergeants call him Ken Beam from over Fort Mill years back. Ken Meadows, who is the partner and is the primary person who's reviewed our audit and the business here to present the information. Any questions so far?
Ken, you were so important, we saved you to last.
Sure, he loved that.
That's that button right there.
All right, I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to the board. If y'all got any questions, feel free to stop me and ask away. Or if you've got any questions, when you look at the financial statements and stuff later, feel free to email me or call me. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. So as is our custom, we've prepared a presentation to kind of summarize the results of the audit and everything. I will say the audit went well this year. We finished up field work probably in mid-October, so we get in here fairly quickly after year end. Clover is one of the first school districts that we do. That's a testament to how good the staff is. Ken and Amy both do a great job. They did a great job this year answering our questions and giving us information. You'll also see that you don't have a final copy of the financial statements. Those haven't been finalized. They're still in draft form. And that's mainly because the federal government hasn't issued the compliance supplement yet. Compliance supplement kind of guides our single audit procedures. And you'll see that at the end of our presentation. So until we get that compliance supplement, the final one, we can't say that we've done everything we need to. So we think we've probably done everything we need to. We don't expect any changes. Don't expect any changes to the financial statement or to the numbers. So I would consider it final, but until all the dots and I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, we can't finalize it. So one of the first things you get to when you look at the financial statements is the audit opinion. And the audit opinion kind of outlines who's responsible for what. So it does a pretty good job of outlining the responsibilities. So the school district is responsible for your internal controls, your accounting records, for the financial statements. Our responsibility is basically to come in and give an opinion on the financial statements, that they are materially correct, and we also provide reasonable assurance that they're materially correct. So there's the concept of materiality. We don't look at every transaction. We may look at higher dollar transactions, we may look at a sampling of transactions, we may do analytical reviews, but we don't look at every dollar that the district spends. And there's also the concept of materiality as far as, we don't audit down to the last dollar either, so. And it's also not a forensic audit. Mention that, people hear audit and they think you're here to find fraud. If we've got an unmodified opinion, which you do, there must not be any fraud. Well, that's not the purpose of our audit. Our audit is to provide an opinion on the financial statement. A forensic audit is much more detailed and focused on a particular area. So, and then as I mentioned, we issued an unmodified opinion. That's the best one you can get, so there were no modifications necessary to our opinions. Next, we'll kind of look at the general fund, give you a few slides on the general fund. You'll see the fund balance this year increased $1.5 million to about $33.7 million. All of that is unassigned. To kind of put that in perspective, that's about 25% of actual expenditures, about 24% of budgeted expenditures. The school district's goal is 25%, so you're right there at your goal. The GFOA, the Governmental Financial Officer Association, recommends a minimum of 2 months, about 16, 17%. So you're right at 3 months. As a firm, we think 3 months is probably a reasonable thing, particularly for a smaller school district. So I think that your fund balance is a healthy fund balance for the general fund. Also, just as Ken mentioned, showing the expenditures and revenues. Those don't come in evenly throughout the year. So at June 30th, you want to have a nice fund balance because you've still got to go 6 more months before, you get a lot of property taxes back in. So if you don't have a healthy fund balance at June 30th, you're going to run into cash flow difficulties in the latter half of the calendar year. So it's worth mentioning that, just keeping that in mind, you do want to have a healthy fund balance. Next, we'll look at revenues and expenditures. First, the revenues, you'll see those were about almost $128 million for the year. You'll see most of your revenues come in from property taxes, about $71 million from property taxes. You receive funding from the state to the tune of about $54 million. And then you also receive some other revenues, mainly investment earnings of about $3.1 million this past year. Looking at the revenues compared to last year, you had an increase of about $9 million this year. Property tax revenues increased by about $6 million this year, mainly due to an increase in millage and assessed values. State revenues increased about $3.5 million this year. Offsetting those was a decrease in other revenues of about $500,000, and that was mainly due to a decrease in investment earnings this year. So, compared to budget, revenues came in higher than budgeted by about $5.5 million, and that was mainly due to investment earnings coming in higher than being budgeted, and then tax revenues also coming in higher than budgeted. The general fund also had transfers in this year, about $6.7 million. That's the state aided classrooms. The state basically funds that. It goes into the special revenue EIA fund, and then it gets transferred over to the general fund to cover expenses in the general fund. Looking at expenditures this year, you'll see general fund expenditures were about $133 million this year. As you would expect, most of that, or almost all of that's in instruction and support services. You also had about $2.5 million in debt service, basically your payments on the finance purchase of the Apple devices, and then $2.4 million in capital outlay. And that was once again related to the payments on the Apple devices. So, other financing sources and transfers out in the general fund, you'll see you had your finance purchase proceeds of the Apple devices, about $2.4 million. So you basically issue a finance purchase, you receive the proceeds, $2.4 million, you spend it to purchase those, that's a capital outlay of $2.4 million, and then you make the payments on those finance purchase agreements. You usually have about 3 of those outstanding in a year, and that's basically what was up above the debt service. So all those kind of tie together, but it's a lot of numbers moving around. But transfers out this year were about $2.1 million out of the general fund. The general fund transferred $1.5 million to the capital projects fund this year. And then they also transferred out about $600,000 to the special revenue fund to support pupil activities. So compared to budget, you'll see expenditures and other financing uses were over budget by about $4.1 million. That was basically due to $2.1 million being unbudgeted transfers out. And then the rest, basically instruction and support services, were over budget by about $1.3 million. I think that was mainly due to higher maintenance cost, substitute cost, and then salaries and benefits as well. So overall, the general fund revenues and transfers in exceeded expenditures and transfers out by about $1.5 million this year. So just to kind of wrap up the general fund. Next, we're going to look at a couple other of the other funds. Debt service fund had a fund balance at year end of about $4.1 million. You'll see that's a very, compared to what you need for debt service obligations in the next fiscal year, it's a very small thing, but that, as we'll talk about a little bit, you've got a bond anticipation note that you issued this year that matures last year, so that percentage looks pretty low, but I think that's pretty, if you look at the fund balance, it's pretty normal compared to past years where it is. The capital projects fund had a fund balance of $75.7 million at June 30th. You'll see that's made up of about 3 different buckets of funds. You'll see unspent impact fees were about $3.5 million. Those have all been spent by now. In fact, most of this probably has already been spent by now or will be spent shortly. Unspent bond proceeds at June 30th were about $54.6 million, and then unspent general fund transfers to the capital projects fund were about $17.6 million. At year end, you had outstanding commitments of about $116.8 million for capital projects. So those outstanding commitments will eat up everything that the fund balance there as those capital projects are completed. So looking at the special revenue funds, you'll see the special revenue and special revenue EIA funds had about a $1.6 million fund balance. A lot of that's related to pupil activities, and then there's also a big component related to Medicaid as well in that $1.6 million. A lot of these funds don't necessarily have fund balance, but they can be carried over to the next year. So at year end, you had about $700,000 of carryover so these funds can be spent next year in fiscal year 26. And then finally, food service had a fund balance of $1.4 million, and that's a decrease of about $400,000 from the prior year. I'll say that was a planned decrease. The food service fund balance, if it exceeds 3 months worth of expenditures, the state doesn't like that and generally wants a plan for the school district to spend that back down to, so it stays under 3 months worth of expenditures. So I think that that decrease of about $400,000 was basically to spend down fund balance to get back closer to where the state likes it. So that's a real quick overview of the funds. Next, we'll look at the statement of net position, the balance sheet of the school district. You'll see total assets were about $449 million. Of that, cash and investments at year end were about $142 million. You had receivables and due from governments of $3.8 million. And then capital assets were about $302 million. You also had some deferred outflows of resources related to the pension and OPEB plans of $59 million. And then offsetting those are your liabilities and deferred inflows of resources. Your total liabilities were $455 million. You'll see accounts payable and accrued expenses totaled almost $31 million at year end. You had some unearned revenue close to $1 million. And then your long-term obligations, which mainly debt, was close to $200 million at June 30th. Then we get into your net pension accounts and net OPEB accounts. Those are the allocations to the school district for the state's unfunded pension and OPEB plans. So once again, that's not a liability that the district will have to pay. It's really an accounting nuance where they basically say that for being a participant in those plans, you've got to be allocated a portion of their unfunded liability and record that liability on your books. So that's what those are. You'll see, $122 million for the pension plan and $103 million for the OPEB plan. The good news is on that, the pension liability actually decreased this year for the state, so that's good. That's the first time that that's happened in a while. So unfortunately, the OPEB went the other way, so that's the bad news on that. So, but basically, ultimately, you have a net position of about $11.1 million. So if the district was a business, that would be your equity component of that, so $11.1 million. Looking at a couple other items, just capital assets. I know we just talked about that, or that was just talked about. At the end of the year, a little bit more than $300 million. That's an increase of about $99 million from the previous year. You see, you had additions of about $107 million. I'm sure you're all familiar with these. The high school being built, Lake Wiley High School, the Liberty Hill Elementary School, the Fitness and Wellness Center at Clover High School, and then also the Fine Arts Wing at the 9th grade campus. So those were all the major additions that happened this past year. Depreciation expense offset a portion of that. Those additions, depreciation was about $8.3 million. And then down there at the bottom of that slide, you'll see your long-term obligations and the activity there. Long-term obligations were about $200 million at year end. That's an increase of about $69 million from the previous year. You'll see you issued a general obligation bond anticipation note of $122 million. So you got about $125 million in proceeds from that. And that comes due in fiscal year, I guess this fiscal year. You also had the finance purchase for the Apple devices of about $2.4 million. And then you also made principal and refunding payments of about $59 million this year. The other thing that happened in long-term obligations this year is you implemented GASB 101, compensated absences. The key takeaway there was that you had already been recognizing vacation that is accrued. Now you have to recognize the sick leave that people earn and are expected to use. So that basically increased compensated absences by about $3.1 million this year. So most of that, some of that's vacation, but most of that's the recognition of the sick leave accrual. Total debt service payments for fiscal year 26 on the outstanding debt are expected to be about $138 million. And that includes the payment of that bond anticipation note. So that wraps up, basically, it gives you a quick overview of the financial statements. We also do a single audit, as I mentioned earlier. We looked at 2 federal programs, Title I and USDA. Both of those look good this year. We didn't have any findings, no material weaknesses in internal controls, or no significant deficiencies in internal controls. So your compliance with these federal programs look good. I'll say that your internal controls overall look good as well. We didn't have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls over the financial statement process either, or accounting. So in summary, you got your GFOA and ASBO certificates of excellence again this year. I don't know how many years y'all have received that, but it's been many. So that's a testament to how well y'all have done as far as financial reporting and accounting. And I think y'all are in healthy financial condition at June 30th. That's it for me.
Any questions?
How long did it take you guys to get this thing done? Because there's a lot of moving parts, but roughly how long?
Yeah, we probably come in for 2 weeks in the late spring, early summer, and then we come back for 2 or 3 weeks in the fall for to complete the audit and do most of the audit work. So about 5 weeks in total, probably, so.
It's been nice having you here, and we appreciate always your partnership and the report. I know, again, the numbers are bigger because the debt, we have a little more debt than we used to have.
Yep,
But
yep,
we're managing
exactly.
that well, so I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah, there's a lot more activity now with all the construction and everything, construction and debt. But yeah, we appreciate, we work for the board. We're always cognizant of that fact. So please, if y'all have ever got any concerns or any issues, please communicate those to us. Either call me, email me, anyone. Let us know when we come in and do interim work. We'll be glad to look at any concerns that you might have, or when we come back in for final field work.
Sounds good. Thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the reports for this evening.
I need a motion to end the business meeting.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.